Hello people, we are Tottenham TV, back here for another Tottenham update. And one thing that we just need to close up before the end, the end of the transfer window has been done and dusted, but we didn't basically bring to you that Manuel Solomon has moved to Villarreal, obviously a couple of days ago now, but he will be playing against Spurs in probably his second game as Villarreal player.
Written in the script, isn't it?
Yeah, so look.
Because the UEFA rules are, if it's a foreign loan, he can play against us. It's not like the Premier League where he's going to be cup, whatever it's called, cup tied or whatever.
So look, we wish him the best of luck for the season. We know it's not any option or obligation or anything like that at the end of the loan, so he will be back at the end of the season. But we get to take a look at him in pretty much his second game at Villarreal, so I think we all know what's about to happen.
For sure. I'm glad he got his move because it's a peculiar one when it comes to his maybe lack of interest. Apparently Palace had a deal agreed and then last minute pulled the plug on the deal for one reason or another, so that must be very frustrating for him. After the season he had at Leeds, you would have thought there'll be a lot of clubs in for him, especially clubs in the Premier League, even a loan deal. And the fact it took all the way to the deadline to get a move was a bit strange. But I think Villarreal's a good move. I know they lost Yeremy Pino to Palace, so I think he'll be a good replacement for them. And yeah, wish him all the best.
Yeah, I think he'll do really well out there. And look, I've said it, and we've spoken about this on a number of occasions, but I do think that we're letting a player go where the players that we have right now on the left wing probably haven't shown as much as him in the past year, albeit it has been in the Championship. But yeah, I just feel like Manuel probably at this stage of his career is better than both Wilson Odebear and Matisse Tell.
He might be, but we've got players with high ceilings there, and we want to give him, we want to trust in them rather than... Look, I think Solomon's a good player, but I don't know if he's any better than a decent Premier League winger.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But at this moment in time, Odebear and Tell haven't even showed the levels of a decent Premier League winger as of yet.
Yeah, but
which never says they can't. I'm not saying they can't. But we just need to see them progress heavily this season. And obviously with Matisse Tell not being involved in the Champions League squad now, which Thomas Frank did apparently make some comments to Matisse about, which, you know, when I think he said that, you know, it's no indictment on you as a player. It's just about the situation that we're in and the number of homegrown club-trained players that we have in the squad, which, look, I'm sure if we had the required numbers, he would have definitely been in it. But it's just the situation, and I'm sure as a young player, he's going to take it, you know, hard. But he's got to knuckle. It's on him now to knuckle down and really stake a claim to be a very important player in this team.
But it seems there's a lot of Premier League teams having similar issues. Buonanotte signed for Chelsea. He's been left out their squad for the Champions League. I know Gabi Jesus, I know like it's maybe not the same level, but he's been left out for Arsenal.
He's also long-term injury, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't know. I think he might be back soon. Anyway, Omari Hutchinson and Zinchenko, I believe, left out for Forest. Chiesa, he's been left out for Liverpool after a decent start to the season for him. So a lot of clubs having issues with homegrown players and placing the squad, and we've fallen foul of it as well. I do feel sorry for Tell because we signed him for 30 million in the summer. No one forced us to sign him, right? We chose to sign him for 30 million because we believe, well, essentially, either we just thought it was a great deal, or you believe in him. You believe he's going to be a great player. So Tell decided to commit his future here, long term, decent sized deal. I'm guessing on the basis that this is going to be a club that will help him develop, and he's given the peak here. So it's probably a big blow to him that he has been left out so early on, and that we've gone for other players, considering he's just got this big move, and this is the next chapter in his career, isn't it? It's supposed to be. This isn't a loan deal anymore. This is permanent, right? We signed for 30 million. So this is now the next chapter in his career, right? That's how he sees this move, as this chance to go to a different step, start playing regularly for a Premier League side and an English team, which are known for helping young players develop. And the fact that he's been left out of the Champions League squad has got to be hard to take for him. And considering all that, I think it's a bit of an indictment on our squad planning and the fact that it doesn't look good on Tottenham at all. The fact that we've signed a player for 30 million and we've left him out the Champions League squad. It doesn't look good for Spurs. But I agree with you. He's got to, hopefully, he sees this as an opportunity. Hopefully it puts a bit of fire in his belly, when he gets those opportunities in Premier League games and cup games, he grabs them with both hands. And hopefully, I'm hoping we sit here in January and Spurs have got egg on their face, the fact that we left him out.
Hope so. I mean, we definitely had that when we left Jed Spence out last season, and he got that fire in his belly and he proved everyone wrong. Let's hope Matisse Tell does the same. And yeah, look, I get what you're saying about the squad planning and stuff like that, but if you don't have club trained players, you don't have club trained players. Like, what can you do about it? Like, we just don't. Like, the numbers of the club trained, like they're going to come through. They're going to start filtering through over the next couple of years, but the academy hasn't produced that kind of talent for many years now. So it's more of an indictment on the caliber of players that we're producing more than anything else.
I just think it doesn't look good for Tottenham, especially. I know we've spent a healthy amount, but you know, when we sign a £30 million player, you expect them to be a fairly important member of the squad. When you sign them for a new signing, you don't expect to sign a £30 million player or whatever and him be left out of the Champions League squad. And I think it doesn't look good on them that that's what's happened. But look, that's the reality, and we've got to move past it.
It doesn't look good on both parties, to be honest. I don't think it looks too good on Matisse Tell, because if he had, earned his right to play, he would have been in that squad. But the reality is, he's the last in the pecking order in over the wing positions because of the way he's played.
I know, yeah, I agree with that as well. I'm just saying it doesn't look good for Tottenham in terms of their decision to sign him permanently. It doesn't look great on that at all.
Yeah, it looks like it was a poor decision. Yeah, 100%. Spurs players up for Premier League awards at the end of the first month of the Premier League. In terms of goal of the month, Richarlison has been shortlisted for his unbelievable scissor kick against Burnley, getting 2 goals on the day as well. Also in the running is Semenyo against Liverpool, Paquetá against Chelsea, James Garner against Brighton, I'm just going to call him Rio against Newcastle, Keenan Dewsbury-Hall against Wolves, and Dominic Szoboszlai against Arsenal, and also Mark Gehi against Aston Villa. So a lot of great goals scored in the first month in the Premier League. And before that Arsenal game, I would have said that Richarlison was definitely going to win it, but yeah, I think Dominic Szoboszlai is probably going to take that one. The
only thing that maybe puts Richarlison's hat in the ring is not just the finish, but the fact it was like a team goal. All 11 players were involved, 17 passes, and it ended up with a world-class finish on top of that, whereas obviously Szoboszlai's one's just a wonder strike, but considering it was in such a high-profile game as well, and 2 title rivals battling it out, and it was a winner late in the game, yeah, it will take the cake, I think.
Yeah. 100%. In terms of save of the month, Vicario is up for save of the month as well. He's a nominee. The Italian international stopper has been shortlisted for the August prize for a number of key interventions he made in last week's 1-0 loss against Bournemouth. The save in question came at the start of the second half as he expertly tipped Antoine Semenyo's angled left foot effort to prevent the visitors from doubling their advantage. Also in the running is Mads Hermsen for West Ham against Sunderland, Jose Sarr for Wolves against Bournemouth, Bernd Leno for Fulham against Manchester United, Matt Sells, Forest against West Ham, and James Trafford for Man City against Brighton. That Trafford save was brilliant to me.
Yeah.
Do you think he might get it?
It was a brilliant save. It was the one where it was that half volley from like the edge of the box, and it really caught me by surprise, the connection Semenyo got on it. So I can only think of what it did for Vicario, and he tipped it round with his fingertips on the left-hand side. Great save. I don't know if he'll win it. To be honest, I don't know all the saves that's on that list. But yeah, I think it was a great save. That's all I can say.
Yeah. So let's hope some Spurs players can come home with some Premier League awards for August. I think if we would have had a good game against Bournemouth and take the 3 points, Frank would have definitely been in the running for manager of the month. But yeah, it's just a shame that kind of took the gloss of what was a really good start for Thomas Frank at Tottenham Hotspur.
100%, and it was a reality check about where we truly are after what was a fantastic start, but it doesn't mean there's not a lot to be excited about, especially with the new signings.
Yeah, 100%. There's been some quotes from Xavi Simons, who's been speaking to Dutch media just after signing for Spurs and going out on international duty for the Netherlands. And he's speaking about Thomas Frank. And he said, "The manager told me a lot, positive things, and also things I need to improve on. It's a fantastic how he sees football, how he wants to make players better. Spurs is the right place for me to develop. It's great that he was honest and he wants to improve things for me. I always think that the coaches are most important people to base a decision on. As a player, you see a coach more than your family. What needs to be improved? I prefer to keep that to myself. But I heard different things from Thomas Frank than other coaches in the past. That makes sense." It's, the Frank Paul, mate. The Frank Paul.
Well, I think that is what Frank is all about, isn't it? It's about developing players, right? That's kind of why he's been brought in, and that's what he's been known for. So I think when he's talking to Simons, he's not thinking away of, oh, you're so great. Or I'm sure he obviously did that, but he's also thinking of, how can we make you better? How can we get the best out of you? What are you not doing right? And I think Simons, the kind of ambitious guy that he is, the steps he's taken in his career, right, has always been development based. Even though for a very young age he was at Barca and he was at PSG, he took the steps to go to PSV. He went to Leipzig, all for the sake of development. He wasn't just looking for the glitz and the glamour of a big name club. He was looking for how to better himself. So it's no surprise to me. He probably liked the fact that Frank sees what his weaknesses are, and probably told him, look, if you come here, we're going to get you doing this, we're going to get you improving in this area, and we're going to make you a much better player. That's probably what he wanted to hear. He probably doesn't want to hear, like when he's talking to a club, oh, you're just amazing, you're just such a good player, like you're the bee's knees. Like, he wants to hear things to improve, because that's what his career has told me. So I'm not surprised that the fact that Frank went into detail into those things, that's what impressed him the most.
Yeah, I think it depends, like, kind of what stage of your career you're at, what kind of mentality you have as a player, and what you want to hear. But I think Frank is a very good people's person, and I think, you know, he's very kind of in tune of what the modern day footballer is like and what they're like in their brains. So I think as well, like you've heard, Xavi Simons isn't the only one. Like, I think from my understanding, he's been given like monster phone calls to even the likes of Morgan Gibbs-White and Eberechi before they ended up.
That's a new phrase, monster phone calls.
Yeah,
I've never heard that one before.
Before, like, talk of their lifetimes. I know Eberechi obviously ultimately wanted Arsenal in the end, and Morgan Gibbs-White would have signed for Spurs if it wasn't for Mr. Marinakis. But I think Thomas Frank has been a central key to why all the players that have signed for us have signed this summer.
Yeah, and I think the way Frank sees the game, as we saw at Brentford, he is very good at getting the best out of players' strengths and playing to their strengths and coming up with ways of playing so that it enhances their strengths. And I think those players will appreciate that.
And back on what you were saying about the steps he's taken in his career, he's actually had some comments on them as well. And he said, when I went to PSV, I was much younger, so you had to work on different things than you do now. Tottenham summer signing Xavi Simons says that he knew upon talking to Netherlands teammate Mickey van der Ven, Spurs was the place that he needed to be. And his quote says that at PSV, after a conversation with Ruud van Nistelrooy, I knew that's where I needed to be. I also said that a feeling at Leipzig and also at Spurs is where I also met Mickey van der Ven. I knew I wanted to be there too. That is where the best players are, and I want to be the best too. I knew, and I know what I want to achieve, and I'm going to do it.
So when he says, I know where the best players are, is he talking about Tottenham or the Premier League?
I think he's talking about the Premier League.
Not Tottenham specifically.
Tottenham as well, but I think he's more talking about the Premier League.
Well, maybe he knows how good Mickey van der Ven is, one of the best
he
centre-backs
definitely
in the
knows
Premier
how
League.
good Mickey van der Ven is, but I think he knows, like, the majority of the best players in the world now are in the Premier League.
Yeah, not necessarily at Tottenham. Although we have some good squad players, but obviously he comes in as one of our best players now. You would think. But yeah, look, that's really good to hear. As I've said, like, I think Simons has a bit of reputation, I think, of being a bit of a diva and things like that. But I think it's probably a bit unfair. I think when you look at how his career's gone, I think he's gotten better as he's gotten older. I think he's got a really good head on his shoulders, and he's picked his moves very carefully. And I think they've really turned out great for him. And he's obviously now starting for the Dutch national side regularly, and he scored a goal in the Euro semi-final. And I think, look, 22. A couple of years at Leipzig in the Bundesliga developing, and he felt he's ready for the next step. But I think he's a guy who clearly has his career planned out in his head to a good way. Apparently, I was watching a video on him yesterday. Apparently, a very big change in his thinking was when he changed agent. And apparently,
when did he do that?
When he was before, I think it was before PSV potentially, or maybe after one season.
He must have been like 18 or 19.
Yeah. So he actually had Mino in our what was his name? Raola. Obviously he passed away. and he changed his agent, and apparently his whole, because Raiola was like pushing for big moves and like, oh, you don't want to go there, you know, only big clubs,
Chasing
only
the
big money, yeah. And when he changed agent, his outlook completely changed, and now he's very much focused on developing his career and looking for the best pathway. Because there was a fear at one point, because obviously he was a prodigy, wasn't he, at Barcelona and PSG. He was like this child superstar, but there was this fear that he wasn't going to fulfill his potential. He was going off the rails. Like, there was all this talk about discipline issues and all this kind of stuff. And you know, at 17 or 16, when he'd not even played a game, he had like millions of followers on Instagram, and he was like a celebrity already at a young age. And there was a fear that it was getting to his head and all this kind of stuff. So the fact that, you know, his career's taken a different path to that, you know, he's put in the hard yards, he's gone to the Eredivisie and smashed out, he's gone to the Bundesliga, smashed out, he's taken his career steps very seriously and very carefully. And that tells me, you know, he this is a guy who's come here with a purpose. You know what I mean? He wants to make the best of himself in his career. He's not just, you know, he's not focused on, oh, I've got 1 million followers when I was 16. That's not important to him, I don't think.
And also, like, there has been a kind of narrative, maybe not a narrative, but there's been suggestions from what I've seen on social media. You know, you shouldn't take everything on social media as gospel, but what I've seen from some Leipzig fans on social media is that he does have a bad attitude problem. But you're looking at the way some players have pushed for move this summer, like Alexander Isak, like Johan Wissa, like we've seen players do in the past, as opposed to someone like a Mark Gehi, who just knuckles down and waits for their move. I think Xavi Simons more was fitted into that category. As you know, he still started the season with Leipzig in the Bundesliga, played the first game, he played all throughout the pre-season, and in that time there was heavy talk. He's already agreed personal terms with Chelsea, he's dying for his move, he's trying to get his move, but he never once showed any unprofessionalism or anything. He stuck to it and carried on playing for Leipzig and carried on training like nothing was happening.
Yeah, from what I've heard about him in terms of like attitude, apparently just like in games and stuff, like if he doesn't get a pass or a teammate misplaces a pass or he plays a teammate for on goal and they miss or something like that, he can get a bit frustrated, like in those instances. But it's not like he's not a hard worker on the pitch, and you know he's always doing his defensive duties and stuff like that. Like I think it's attitude. Like maybe he has a feeling he's got a bit of an ego, but I think a lot of footballers, especially when they're that good, probably do, and especially when he has been in the spotlight for such a long time. You know, it's understandable that's going to affect you, but I don't think it's a attitude problem, like he's not going to try, or he's got bad body language, like he's like, you know, just his head down, he's not tracking back and doing those kind of stuff. I think he's got a very good mentality, but sometimes maybe he lets those frustrations get the better of him. But he's still young, he's 22, you got to remember that. Yeah. He's so young.
Yeah, absolutely. There were some comments from his Dutch Netherlands manager Ronald Koeman as well, and he believes that Xavi Simons has chosen a fantastic club with Tottenham Hotspur. He says in June he already outlined his options and wishes to me. Last week he told me it had become Tottenham Hotspur, a fantastic club for him. You always have to wait and see, of course, but this seems like a wonderful step for him. So big up to Ronald Koeman.
And do you think as well, just logically, if you try and take away our Spurs bias, do you not think it makes more sense the Spurs move?
Oh, 100%.
Than Chelsea.
When you look at Chelsea, there's a Cole Palmer in front of him.
And Pedro as well can play there, you know?
Yeah, I think like you're looking at Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer is one of the best players in the Premier League at this moment in time. And I think you're looking at Xavi Simons, that's the position that he's going to want. And
off the left, they got Gittins and Garnacho on the left.
Yeah, but I think he could be better than Gittins and Garnacho, like, straight away. I don't know if he can be better than Cole Palmer straight away. You know, to talk about Cole Palmer's getting, like 20 goals and stuff in a season. Like, that's going to be very hard for Xavi Simons. But when, like, Gittins and Neto and these kind of guys, I think Xavi Simons would fancy his chances against those guys. I think it's Cole Palmer is the one. Where you're looking at Spurs, there's a clear spot for him to play week in, week out, Premier League football, Champions League football, for your development. And that's going to do you wonders.
Yeah, imagine either you're being sold, yeah, we're going to need you if Palmer's injured, or look, you're going to be the star of this team. And that's the difference.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, like, I don't even think Chelsea needed him that much. I think it was just a good player on the market, and they thought, all right, we'll go get him. He's a really good player, and he'll enhance the squad. Where I think Thomas Frank probably sold him, the desperation for someone like him in the squad.
And they just love stockpiling talent. And maybe I don't think this is true, but a part of him surely will be looking at some of the sales they've been having recently and thinking like, who's to say that won't be me in a year's time, if I'm not like the best player in the team or whatever, like smashing out immediately, they could look to sell me in a year and I'm just like another number. Whereas at Tottenham, I think, they're really going to believe in me and that, I'm going to be like the number one here.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, that is your Tottenham update. Let us know your thoughts on all those situations in the comments section below. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always,
Come on, you Spurs.